Hello and welcome to ITV News Central. On the programme tonight, a doctor and NHS worker from Droitwich who won't have the coronavirus vaccine say they're shocked that they might now be sacked from their jobs.
I want to be able to say to my children that I fought for their freedoms in the future. I'm 100% not going to be having the vaccination, so if this goes ahead I will lose my job.
Bin drivers in Coventry say they've had enough. They threatened strike action for 2 months over pay.
Whatever they want, they can have it as far as I'm concerned. They're underpaid, underappreciated, and give them what they want.
A family from rural Shropshire say they feel left out by the health service.
We're not cut off from anywhere, so how can you not have the basic necessity of someone to help you in an emergency?
Are you moving around enough? New figures show that 30% of us do less than 30 minutes of physical activity a week.
And it seems as though we've got low pressure and high pressure battling for domination over our skies. Join me later to find out which one wins out.
Good evening. An NHS doctor and administration worker from Droitwich say they're heartbroken that they might be jobless in a matter of weeks because they won't be vaccinated against coronavirus.
The government announced last week that mandatory vaccines will be a condition of employment for healthcare workers. All NHS staff in England must have had their first dose of a COVID vaccine by the 3rd of February or risk losing their job at the end of March. Our reporter Sarah Kilburn-Wilson has been to meet them today.
Anna is a psychiatrist and Mirren a medical secretary. They both work for Worcestershire Acute Hospital's NHS Trust. But in less than 2 months, they might not have jobs to go to because they have chosen not to get vaccinated.
All of our family had COVID, so we will have natural immunity to it. I'm also concerned by side effects from the vaccine, and we don't feel that there's enough evidence to show that it would be beneficial to other people if we had it.
Mirren is one of 73,000 NHS workers who the government has concluded may quit their job rather than get jabbed.
My husband also works for the trust, and so we're both looking like we're going to lose our jobs. We live paycheck to paycheck, so for us this is a massive worry. It's a massive amount of stress and anxiety. And
so is not having the vaccination worth losing your job over?
I feel that your health is something that you can't put a price on. I want to be able to say to my children that I fought for their freedoms in the future. I'm 100% not going to be having the vaccination, so if this goes ahead I will lose my job, and yes, it will be worth the sacrifice in the sense that I will know that I stood by my principles.
Dr. Anna Wilkin is a psychiatrist on the home treatment team, dealing with people with mental illnesses in the community.
I'm just over 40, I'm healthy, I'm of normal BMI, I'm fit, I'm healthy, and it wasn't put across to me that catching COVID, any of the variants, was likely to result in me becoming either seriously unwell, requiring a hospital admission, let alone requiring ITU and dying. It's very difficult to come to a clear conclusion as to what my risk of the vaccine is, so I can't proceed at this stage.
As a psychiatrist, you're going into people's homes and you're helping them, and we're told a big part of this vaccine is to help people, to protect people. So how does that fit in with your line of work?
So I would never do anything to put my patients at risk, as you say. I spend all my time protecting my patients, being their advocate, helping them with their mental health. I haven't yet seen any clear evidence that I am more at risk, or I present more of a risk to my patients as an unvaccinated member of staff than a vaccinated.
In a statement, Worcestershire Acute Hospital's NHS Trust told us, "We continue to encourage all our staff to protect themselves, their colleagues and our patients by making sure they are fully vaccinated against COVID-19 and will do everything we can to support and reassure our staff who have any concerns. Our priority remains the safety of our patients and colleagues, and I urge anyone who is not yet fully vaccinated to get the jab as soon as possible." The Department for Health and Social Care says vaccinations remain our best defence against COVID. And for Anna and Mirren, there's no job without a jab. Sarah Kilban-Wilson, ITV News, Droitwich.
Meanwhile, 70% of all patients in intensive care are unvaccinated, according to scientists in the Midlands. Health bosses in the region say those who are not fully vaccinated against COVID are facing increased risks of being hospitalised. Around 20% of those eligible in the region are yet to have their booster.
A demonstration was held today by council bin lorry drivers who want temporary extra pay. The union representing them say their skills as HGV drivers should entitle them to extra payments. The council says it's an equal pay issue.
Talks with Coventry City Council have been ongoing and the drivers have been striking on selected days. But from the end of the month, they'll strike 5 days a week. Mark Goff reports.
Today's demonstration outside the council house was designed to send a message to the councillors meeting inside. Coventry's bin lorry drivers and their union Unite believe they should be given a temporary enhanced payment, a supplement, for 12 months in recognition of the fact that they're skilled HGV drivers. Unite told us today they've been in talks with the council in recent years over this, but the council hasn't agreed to the payment. The drivers started striking earlier this month on selected days, but from the end of this month they'll strike for 5 days a week.
We're not being unreasonable, we're not asking for something for nothing, we're asking for market rate for supplement. These are heavy goods drivers that have a HGV licence and a CPC licence. It's a heavily skilled job. They're driving around vehicles that are multiples of tonnes. They have vehicle road safety and pedestrian safety to bear in mind. So, that's the reason for the lobby today, so people can understand what's going on.
Meanwhile, the bins aren't being emptied. The City Council has set up temporary tips so people can bring their own rubbish. But they say the question of paying lorry drivers is problematic because of the Equal Pay Act.
As any big employer and a local authority, we have to be fair to all of our employees, all 4,500 of them, and to pay a male-dominated workforce more money than any other part of the workforce would be wrong under equal pay. We will continue to work with them to try and find a lawful outcome. We made a number of offers before Christmas and a number of those offers will be back on the table at an appropriate point.
We asked Coventry residents what they thought about the dispute.
Whatever they want, they can have it as far as I'm concerned. They're underpaid, underappreciated and give them what they want.
Our bins are overflowing at the moment, but we totally support them.
I feel sorry for the local residents who are suffering as a result of this, but I'm with these all the way and I hope that they win, I really do.
The strikes are due to last until March. Mark Goff, ITV News.
The parents of a 1-year-old girl from Ludlow in South Shropshire say they were terrified whilst waiting over half an hour for an ambulance when their daughter became unresponsive.
At Myler Child's, parents were told there were no ambulances available in the area and the nearest was sent from Hereford, 24 miles away. West Midlands Ambulance Service apologised, but the family are urging for an ambulance hub in the area. Ravneet Nandra reports.
A high temperature one afternoon led 1-year-old Myla to have blue lips, hands and feet. She was having a seizure and then became unresponsive.
Terrified. I think I was just screaming. You were trying to remain calm, but we had the neighbours and stuff, but we just knew there was nothing we could do.
This was a Category 1 call, meaning life-threatening or serious. It should take an ambulance crew 8 minutes to arrive. This one took nearly 5 times longer.
After probably around the 15-minute mark, we asked again, where are they? How long is this going to be? And that's when we knew they were coming from Hereford, because Shropshire didn't have anybody available to come. So we knew that Hereford is a 45-minute drive away, so we were going to be with this for a while.
West Midlands Ambulance Service have apologised to the family for the time it took to reach Myla and say their staff are working tirelessly to respond to patients as soon as they can. In a statement, they said, at the time of the call, all 27 ambulances in Shropshire were with patients, so the nearest available ambulance was sent from Hereford, which is 24 miles away from the location. Shrewsbury is 30 miles away. They went to Hereford County Hospital as the alternative would have been Princess Royal in Telford, which is 31 miles away. Shropshire Defend Our NHS say it's not good enough and are campaigning for more support in rural areas.
If we have local ambulance stations with that protected cover, then it's not about special favours for people in the countryside, of course not, but it's about saying that the lives of people in the rural parts of Shropshire matter just as much as the lives of people living in Shrewsbury or Telford, and of course they do. Every life is of equal value.
Mila's parents have started a petition for a South Shropshire ambulance hub so people in emergencies can be treated quicker.
I get that there might be a delay or 40 minutes or 50 minutes, whatever, for the ambulance to get here, but having that person with you that knows how to deal with that emergency in them first couple of minutes is the difference between life and death.
Mila won't remember what happened to her, but her parents will, and hope change can occur quick enough so an event like this doesn't happen again. Ravneet Nandra, ITV News, Ludlow.
A man's been taken to hospital after falling 40 feet after trying to escape from police. Officers were responding to reports of a man attempting to break into cars at Birmingham Utilita Arena. He tried to drop to a lower level but fell to the pavement. He was taken to Queen Elizabeth Hospital with serious injuries, but they're not thought to be life-threatening.
Shrewsbury Town have banned 2 supporters for a total of 8 years following events at their FA Cup third-round match with Liverpool earlier this month. Video clips emerged after the game appearing to show some Shrewsbury fans singing about the Hillsborough disaster in 1989, where 97 Liverpool fans died. In a statement, Shrewsbury said they will not tolerate any behaviour that breaches their supporter code of conduct.
A Derby County fan is planning a protest walk ahead of the club's next home game in recognition of the club's financial problems. The club has exactly 2 weeks to prove it has the money to complete the season. Josh Broughton is organising the walk from Assembly Rooms to Pride Park and has got Birmingham City fans to join him, who they're playing on the 30th of January.
Obviously it's going to be a peaceful protest, but it shows that we all care furthermore than the 50,000 petition signatures we've already got, and I think it would really have an impact. Not going to back down easily, and this club is worth fighting for, because obviously it's not just football, is it? It's people's livelihoods, it's people's jobs. You just can't beat coming to a match on a Saturday afternoon.
This afternoon, the government announced that it has made the decision to intervene in the management of Sandwell Council.
It follows a damning review last month which found a lack of trust, confidence and respect at the authority, and that it was dealing with so many internal complaints it was affecting public services. Lucy Capassi reports.
Sandwell Council has barely been out of the headlines over the last 5 years, with allegations of corruption and chaos, with the Prime Minister Boris Johnson saying in December intervention may be needed if things didn't improve. This evening that's become a reality, as a letter was delivered to the authority from the government saying it's stepping in. The new leader, Kerry Carmichael, who was elected unopposed just before Christmas, says she's keen to look to the future.
Could you tell us what you see the challenge is and how you're going to tackle it?
Well, the challenge is how to move the council forward. And I'm going to tackle it in 2 ways, really. One, from my own experience of being a councillor for 9 years and knowing how and to deal with the residents here, and obviously living here all my life as well. And the other way is to look at the internal processes with the officers and directors that we have at the moment. I don't actually see the chaos that people believe is going on the inside. Obviously we're a broad church with many different personalities and we've got many different views, and that's what makes us good. I mean, as a council and as councillors, we're still providing a good service to the public. We've still got libraries opened, we've still got youth centres, we're still doing weekly bin collections.
An annual review into how effectively the authority spends its money, published in December, is what has led to today's announcement. It found that there had been a breakdown in trust between officers and senior elected councillors, and said the amount of time spent investigating internal allegations and complaints was so great that it had negatively impacted on the council's ability to improve its public service. Mrs Carmichael admits it wasn't easy reading.
The Grant Thornton audit points out what's been wrong, but as a new leader, that's going to give me a good foundation to work from, I believe, and that gives me somebody else's take on what is wrong within the council, so I'm able then to act upon that. I'm not going to be looking at old cases. I don't think there's any point. I'm a new leader. I feel as though I've got a fresh approach, and I want to take the council forward and not backwards.
2 years ago, just before the pandemic, Mrs Carmichael had a kidney transplant at University Hospital Coventry after living with kidney disease for 20 years. She believes the resilience she's built up during her illness will help in her new role.
You see things differently, yeah, and it makes me more determined as well, a bit more of a determined character, because I've already been through a lot, you know, and what else can be thrown at me, really.
Today's announcement has come at a time when the borough of Sandwell is already in the spotlight, as it will be hosting the swimming and diving in the Commonwealth Games. The council now awaits details about what the intervention will mean for them and the people they serve. Lucy Capassi, ITV News.
And the ITV Evening News is a few moments away, so to tell us what's in the headlines, here's Mary Nightingale.
On the programme, an embattled Prime Minister vows to hang on. Boris Johnson says he didn't lie to Parliament about that Downing Street party during lockdown. His former advisor says he was told beforehand, which the PM denies. Scotland prepares to drop all Omicron-related restrictions, but Nicola Sturgeon urges caution. And game, set, match, victory for both Andy Murray and Emma Raducanu at the Australian Open. Do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Well, you're watching ITV News Central, and still to come on our programme. Find out why this fleet of buses in Coventry is making history.
And it certainly was a foggy start this morning, but tomorrow, will we be seeing a beautiful sunrise like this? Join me later and I'll let you know.
There are calls for PE to become a core subject of the national curriculum alongside English and Maths as part of a new national plan to tackle the so-called crisis of inactivity.
Yes, well, the new recommendations from the House of Lords come as research shows that 30% of people in the West Midlands do less than 30 minutes of activity a week. Catherine Walker has this report.
From the youngest to the oldest members of society, exercise forms an important part of the country's health.
It does, and it's healthy as well, isn't it?
But for mums like Iram, accessing inclusive and affordable fitness isn't always easy.
Some people can afford for their children to go into clubs and after-school clubs, leisure activities, whereas there are a lot of children that don't get to have these opportunities because they have to pay. Where a parent has, 4 or 5 children, or single parents, for example, the cost of them going to each of these sessions is quite costly.
This struggle is reflected in the latest report from Sport England, which shows the nation's activity levels are getting worse. It found 30% of adults in the West Midlands are doing less than 30 minutes of activity a week. More than 40% are struggling to hit the government target of 150 minutes a week.
It's these concerns that led the House of Lords to take action. They put forward plans for a new national strategy, hoping to give more people the opportunity to be active.
Under the new plans, the House of Lords wants the government to make a new Minister for Sport, Health and Wellbeing. This minister would then work in the Department of Health, who they think should take over all responsibility for sport policy. They also want to see PE become a core subject on the national curriculum, like English and Maths.
I think what we have now is an opportunity to make a phenomenal difference to the way in which this country approaches sport and activity. We've become one of the most lazy, least active nations on the planet. And unless we can change that dramatically, which this report is all about, we will pay a huge price for our children later on.
In a statement, the government said they will carefully consider the report's recommendations. They added, "We are working hard to increase activity levels and we urge everyone to enjoy the benefits of getting active."
Run as fast as you can.
Finding a spare 2.5 hours every week to exercise can seem daunting. But parents like Iram hope a new national strategy could help more families reach that all-important goal. Catherine Walker, ITV News.
Hear what the instructor said, run as fast as you can.
Yes,
That's
which
the
is
spirit.
what we try and do at lunchtime, don't we?
Yeah, we do indeed. Yeah.
Get off our jobs, which are, of course, sitting down all the time.
True enough. Now, learning a new language ranks pretty highly on the list of popular New Year's resolutions, and despite Brits having a historically bad reputation for multilingualism, I can hardly say that, this is starting to change, apparently.
It is, apparently, because more than 3 million people used time over COVID lockdowns to try a new language, with many relying on apps and digital tutorials. Nick Smith reports now on how technology is making that process more accessible than ever before.
The monolingual Brit is a bit of a stereotype, but it's not unfounded. Compared to our European neighbours, we languish at the bottom of the league table when it comes to speaking other languages. Only a third of us are fluent in something other than our national tongue, compared to an average of 2/3 of people in EU countries. But according to new research, just 7% of adults in the West Midlands region are keen to learn another lingo in the next 12 months. We asked people in Erdington in Birmingham if they speak anything other than English.
No.
Why not?
I haven't got time. Haven't got time. So sorry. I'm very busy.
I tried French, but I couldn't get it. Just went stick in the head. It was a bit awkward. Don't know. I don't think my brain's qualified enough to learn a different language.
Will Hurl is currently trying to learn Spanish. His partner is from Barcelona, so he's keen to converse better with her family and friends and immerse himself in her culture. Like many adults now attempting a new language, Will finds learning through tech more engaging than traditional textbooks and dictionaries.
Learning another language really does open your mind to sort of new opportunities and new cultures. When I'm over in Spain, just understanding sort of their culture in more depth. The hardest part is always getting the motivation to start. But with apps, it's a lot more easy than sort of previous techniques. It's a lot more sort of immersive and easy for you to pick up.
Many linguistic experts say schools struggle to promote multilingualism outside of language lessons, and children from international backgrounds sometimes lose touch with the language of their parents or grandparents. And now, as adults, many look to language apps to try and reconnect with their heritage.
People don't see the benefits of being multilingual or bilingual when they're younger, but I think as you get older in life, you definitely start to value languages. That you have this whole cultural identity that you can tap into. That's powerful, and I think that is why encouraging young people to learn languages it's so important.
And one famous lexicographer and multilinguist says speaking several languages can bring surprising benefits to your brain function.
From a cognitive point of view, it can actually really increase your brain power. And so many of us now are actively trying to stave off, a sort of deterioration of our brain in later life. And actually, word games is one way of doing it. And language learning has been proved to be another. It actually fires off your synapses in lots of different ways.
So with more language learning resources than ever before, now is as good a time as any to expand your horizons and venture beyond your everyday vernacular. Nick Smith, ITV News.
I have to say, having 2 languages is an advantage because I can tell my children off in both of them and they know what I mean, even if they don't understand it properly.
I can speak Black Country.
That's another one, you see. All talents. Now, let's talk about history in the making, because a fleet of zero-emission buses is being introduced next year in Coventry, which will make it the UK's first all-electric bus city.
130 of them will be in service from early next year, and they're costing £140 million. The plan is to eventually have 300 electric buses on the city streets by 2025.
We already have 10 buses that are fully electric at the moment. Another 130 is a massive statement of intent. Coventry is on the journey to be carbon neutral, and this is a great start.
Every bus is a step to taking dirt, pollution out of the atmosphere. And so for this to be the first all-electric city is an enormous commitment.
Right, let's get the weather forecast now. Des is with us, and Des, it was a fantastic looking sky this morning.
It certainly was, but the clear skies meant that it was a very, very cold day, and it was freezing cold. I nipped across the road to the car park to get something out of my car. It's only across the road, of course, and when I came back, my fingers were freezing. It was like I dipped them in an ice bucket, you know what I mean? It was almost as cold as it is in the office upstairs sometimes, don't you agree?
Did you not have gloves?
No, I didn't have gloves. I'll wear them next time, but hopefully it's going to warm up as we head into the next couple of days. Let's find out why not, just after this.
Making the most of it, whatever the weather. Octopus Energy sponsors ITV Central Weather.
Well, ultimately, today wasn't too bad. I know it was a fairly foggy start, but we did start seeing some brighter skies coming through. I've got a beautiful picture to show you, actually. This is the Wolf Moon taken, as you can see, by Dirk. And this next one's been taken by Nick from Shrewsbury all the way back. I'm sure you know this. In 1809, it was the birthplace of the fabulous Charles Darwin. Now, our weather story starts to change once we get into Wednesday, and it's all down to this frontal system. We haven't seen rain for a while, actually. This is a weakening feature. I think it gets to us in the morning. It's pretty much fragmenting. Not everyone's going to see it. But behind it, we have really cold air coming down from the north, brought to us by this area of high pressure right here. And we've got a squeeze on the isobars as well. So it's going to be a little bit on the breezy side. Heading into the overnight story, when you consider that last night temperatures dipped all the way down to -5, it's going to be a relatively mild night, dipping down to around 2 degrees on average because we've got the cloud cover. And where that cloud cover does start to break, we'll start seeing some frost and a touch of fog as well. Then we get into tomorrow morning. We have a cold front moving over us, but behind it, we start seeing clearer skies. So more in the way of sunshine and a drier end to the day. But remember that squeeze on the isobars. It does mean that the breeze is pushing through at a brisk pace, and it makes temperatures that are around 5 degrees feel chillier than that. Now, when it comes to summarising the end of the week, chilly mornings certainly is what we've got. It's going to be cloudy at times, but fortunately, because high pressure is going to be the dominating feature, our weather is settled, and for most of us, in fact for all of us, it's going to remain dry.
Octopus Energy sponsors ITV Central Weather.
Well, Des, it certainly was a very bright moon last night.
Yes.
And you mentioned something called a wolf moon. Now, what's that mean?
Yeah, good question, Bob. I think we should start off first of all by talking about what is the moon. The moon is Earth's only natural satellite, smaller object that orbits a bigger object. It stabilises the Earth, actually, and it hasn't got any light of its own. Anytime we see it, it's actually lit by the sun. Over the course of the year, sometimes it's red, sometimes it's orange and pink. And when it coincides with things that happen on Earth, that's why we give it a name. So we give it names like strawberry moon or harvest moon. When it comes to the wolf moon itself, the first full moon in January, when the nights are really, really cold, that's when wolves have a tendency, because they're nocturnal, of course, to look up at the moon and they start to howl like this. Ow! Let's take a look. Isn't that a great shot? So you can actually imagine, remember the horror movies that you see, the Wolfman movies, you see a wolf here, if this was like, you know, ooh, howling away. And that's why we call it a wolf moon.
Do you know, I believe you.
I just wonder how long you've been practising that howling.
That's it
all afternoon.
From us for the moment, the ITV Evening News coming up. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.